Hello, and welcome to the Radiant Mission Podcast. We are on a mission to encourage and inspire you as you're navigating through this life and with your relationship with Christ. My name is Rebecca Toomey, and today I am joined by the cutest, the handsomest, the sweetest co-host there is, my husband, Mike Toomey.
Wow, my intro is getting better. We cannot stop this marriage series. We just need to keep going because my intros are getting better and better.
Yeah, your intros are getting better and better.
Bigger and bigger and bigger.
Bigger and better. Well, thank you for being here. This is now episode 8 of our marriage series. Can you believe it?
I can't. I can't believe it.
Last
I
episode,
have
you
to
thought we only
admit.
did 3 episodes. So,
No, I don't know how many I thought we did. I'm just totally lost in space. But anyway, the last episode you did a count, and I have to admit that when you were naming the things that we talked about, I felt like I counted 7, and you said it was only 6. But I don't know. If you have the list again, maybe we'll find out.
yeah, maybe you're right. Or maybe there were 2 that were 1 that were said separately, and that is why.
That would make sense. When two become one, this is the marriage series. It makes sense. That could be it.
I think so, because I think that 2 of them were 1. And the 2 become 1. And just a reminder for those of you that are missing Rachel, she has been saved from this series because Rachel's about to have a baby. When we're recording this, she's like maternity mode. So, anyway, we are pre-recording. And when this episode comes out, I'm going to be post maternity myself, but not yet.
Exciting times. The Smithster is pregnant at the same time for the
I
first time.
know. I
It's
know.
so
And newborns
funny.
at the same time. It's crazy. Our babies are going to be so close. It's never happened like this before.
It was really cute. We went to Texas and had a visit with them. And when you guys hugged at the airport, Rachel very awkwardly and funnily pointed out, "Oh, our bellies touch. It's our first belly rub or something." It was really funny when you
She
guys
was
hugged.
like belly touch or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it was really funny. So it's great to see you guys both pregnant and doing well and getting ready to have these babies.
Yeah. Yep. And then we're going to have to do like a baby series again or parenting or something because we'll be ready for it,
I
I
bet.
think. Well, if you are just jumping into the series for the first time today, we're in a relationship series and it's focused on growing together. And Mike is going to count these, but so far we've discussed the 5 love languages, the crazy cycle, embracing oneness, learning to love like Christ. Those 2 were together in one episode. Extending grace, practicing forgiveness, learning to communicate and resolve conflict, and understanding your spouse.
I still ended up with
What
8.
kind of counting is that?
I still ended up with 8. I'm not sure. I'm gonna need to see a list in the show notes.
Oh man. Yeah, this is number 8 because today we're focused on squashing expectations.
Oh, this is an important one. Listen,
Yeah.
Rebecca, I know that you have a great script here, and I know that your episode is well planned out, but I just want to say, squashing expectations, this one's very important for you, honey. This one's really important. You need to learn this one the most.
Oh, focus on your own circle, man.
Oh, I broke the rule. I broke the rule. I'm sorry, but I got it out there. I had to say
Wow.
it. If I
You
have
know,
any beef with you, it's that your expectations are too high sometimes.
I have
And I
very
don't
high
like to disappoint you,
expectations.
so it really hurts my feelings when I disappoint you. And it's
I
happened
know.
before.
I have
That's
to
where
do
this is
I
coming from. Valentine's Day chocolate. That's the first one that came to mind.
Did we talk about that on here yet?
Not sure. Maybe this is the time to bring it up. I got Becky a beautiful, wonderful, special box of chocolates from a 99-year-old chocolate company. And when I gave it to her, she asked, "What's so great about this company? Who cares about this company?" I like dark chocolate. I don't even eat milk chocolate. What is this? And I had that box for like 2 weeks. I never do anything early. I did this early. I was ready. I was proud. I was happy. And then I was just shot down. It was like just totally shot down. And the expectations were so high, and I disappointed, and it that really broke my heart that day. So that's why I let
Oh.
off to say sometimes you got to lower the expectations, or you got to just not make it known how disappointed you may be, because it could hurt your feelings. Could hurt
Well,
my feelings.
to be fair, as soon as I said whatever it was that I said, I immediately regretted it and I felt horrible and I felt so bad. I started crying about it and I was like, I'm so sorry. And I apologized for being such a brat. And I'm not going to make excuses for myself, but I was pregnant. And I'm going to blame it on that. And just that, it's like, I think we talked about this at the time that for me, it was about, don't you know me? And I think that this is where a lot of expectations can come from, is
Mm.
because we want to feel like our spouse knows us, that they can read our minds, that you could read my mind to know the only chocolate that I eat is dark chocolate. So why would you not get me dark chocolate? Or the only chocolate that I eat is, hold on. If you're on YouTube, you can see
Sea
this.
salt and
Is
almond.
this bar of chocolate that I have here, Choco Love, XOXO, almonds and sea salt and dark chocolate.
Yeah, that's definitely her favorite one. She's
That's
very
all I've been
particular.
eating this
Very
whole
particular.
pregnancy is this. This is like the one sweet that I like. So for me in that moment, it was like, you could have got me a bar of that. And I would have been like, oh, so nice.
But I
But
didn't. I tried to go above and beyond and get you
you
something
went too
special.
far above and beyond.
Oh, so what you're really saying is I exceeded your expectations too far outside the realm of what you were expecting, and therefore it was a disappointment.
Yes, too good. You did
Oh,
too good. Next time, do
too
worse.
complicated. Too complicated. One point that I wanted to make, and I think we touched on this a couple of episodes ago. For all the ladies out there, I'm speaking to you, and I'm trying to help the hubbies out. Don't expect your husband to read your mind and have expectations that he should know how to do things, because we are not as smart as you, and we don't think as much as you do, and we don't think about all the things that are going on in your mind, and we're just a lot more simple. At least maybe I'll just speak for myself and say I know when it comes to our relationship, you have so much more going on in your head. You're playing through scenarios that I didn't even wake up yet. And you know, the mind reading is not possible. At least not for me.
Sometimes you can read my mind, but not most of the time.
Sometimes I can, but it's a very special time and it's situational. It's very situational.
Yes. Well, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, you might remember episode 22. We talked about expectations back then. It was called Expectations Are a Thief of Joy. And it was really focused on expectations in general, having expectations, where today we're focused on marriage specifically. But if you haven't tuned into that episode, be sure to listen back to episode 22 because it's got some kind of tangible stuff in there too. And of course, expectations, they exist in all relationships, not just marriage, but with our parents, our friends, our kids, whatnot. I think they're really heightened in marriage though, because, we live together side by side every day. And this is an example, this chocolate thing is actually a really good way to start this because it's an example of where I just expect you're going to know I've only ever seen her eat this for the past 6 months. So I'll just get her the same thing. But instead, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get her something special. This is something nice. And in my mind, I'm thinking, he doesn't know me. And in your mind, you're thinking, gosh, what a brat. I got her something that was so sweet and so thoughtful. And so this is where things can go wrong with expectations. And as Mike just said, it's about communication and communicating things. Now, we really shouldn't dictate to our spouse what to get us for Valentine's Day. I have, though, over the years. I've been like, please, you get me flowers because I love flowers. Like, I've made it clear, though, the things that I like because it does matter to me for certain holidays like birthday, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. I think flowers are an appropriate gift, card, something nice. But I also have gifts as one of my love languages. Granted, it's kind of like slid down the list as time has gone on. The longer we've been together, I think that it used to be a lot higher, but I kind of gave it up.
You had to give it up. I forced you. I forced you to lower the bar and lower your expectations in that because that is my worst love language.
It
Gifts
is.
is my worst love language.
Gosh, what was it? I think it was Brooke's first Mother's Day. So it would have been 3 years ago. Do you remember that? I think that was the worst year, right? That's when it
Yeah, that
was when
I
you didn't get me
literally did
anything
absolutely
for Mother's
nothing.
Day
Yes.
or our anniversary, and they're 2 weeks apart.
Yeah, that was the worst part. But that was really just strategic lowering the bar of expectations because it was all uphill from there. Every year has been so much better. I have knocked it out of the park compared to that. So it's all worked flawlessly.
It was all part of the plan. Just
It
do a
was all
terrible
part of the
job,
plan.
totally do nothing, and then
Yeah.
you could only go up from there.
Yeah, exactly. I did a really bad job and now every year has been so much better than that. It's, every year is better than the last.
Well,
So,
this is something that I think couples should talk about. Last week we talked about understanding your spouse, and we're talking about expectations. So I think that this is a topic to, and we already did the five love languages, but this can kind of pair with that to say, what are your expectations based on your love language? When it comes to holidays, what do you expect from me? Do you expect anything? Because some people aren't gifts and some people don't care about this stuff and they're the opposite. They're like, don't waste your money, don't get me anything. Kind of like you. You're like, don't even bother. But that's not always
yeah.
necessarily true because if I didn't give you a card on our anniversary or get you a gift, I think you would be like, what's going on here?
I think I would just be shocked because I'm married to you, but I could live without gifts. If you chose to show your love in a different way, I would be perfectly fine with it. Gifts is my lowest on the giving love language, and I think it's also my lowest on receiving love language.
No, no,
It's
no.
just
It's
I have too
beyond
much junk.
low. You scored a 0.
I scored a 0, you're right. I don't care about gifts. I think it's wonderful, and sometimes you can get something cool, and there are good gifts in the world, but I just feel like I have so much junk, like, I don't want anything else. There's nothing else that I really need or want, and I just will need to find a place or a container to put it in,
You know
and
what the
so
best gift I could give you is a trash bag.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
To put
Because one
some
of these
stuff in
days,
that
I'm
we
just
could get
gonna
rid
light a
of.
match.
Light a match. I don't know about that.
Nah, no, of course not. I love our
But
house. I would never
I
wanna
know I
just
love our
burn
house
it
too. We
down. We've lived in places that I said, "Man, before I clean up this place, we might as well just burn it down," but I wouldn't do that to this place. It's wonderful.
you would do it to any place. That's
No, of
not your style, but I
course
do want
not.
to bring this back to love languages aside from gifts. We're using that as an example, but it's also important for people that are quality time to communicate about what that means. What is your expectation? Because this is something you and I have talked about too, where we like to spend time together watching shows together, which we don't have time to do because we're doing this podcast.
Doing podcasts, yeah.
and and other things we don't really have time to watch TV together anyway. But let's back up to years ago before we had kids and everything. I think that was something we saw as quality time. But then sometimes I felt like we weren't spending quality time together just watching TV because we were both watching TV on our phone, also on the computer, and like literally three pieces of technology deep. Yeah, we were sitting next to each other, but were we really spending quality time? And so it's like addressing that expectation about what does quality time mean to you or to me? Discussing that with our spouse and saying, what does that look like? Or acts of service. What is the expectation when it comes to acts of service? Am I doing all the laundry? Am
Yes.
I, can I just wash it and you fold it? Can I wash it and
No.
fold it and you put it in your drawers, or you're just going to cram it in there anyway?
Maybe.
So these are all things that are important to talk about, but I want to share another tangible. I talked last time about how I'm a go, go, go type of person. I'm a list person. And that with my weekends, I have those weekend project lists. So I'm like going all week, work, kids, podcast at nighttime, on a couple nights a week sometimes, editing the podcast one night a week at least. And then the weekend comes and it's like, I got 48 hours, not even 48 hours because you don't have the whole 48. I've got like 12 hours to get these things done. And I go into the weekend and I'm expecting that I'm going to get that list 10, 15, 5, 3, whatever it is. And that means that, of course, by proxy, you, my husband, are also going to be a part of this weekend project list.
That's the problem.
And your expectation is that you are going to do nothing, that you have no responsibilities, and that you're
Eh,
going to sleep in and you're going to watch Formula One.
definitely sleep in. Definitely watch Formula One. By the way, spring break is over. This weekend we get another race, so I'm very excited about that.
You ain't got
But
time for that, man. We got a list.
here's the thing, and this, I don't wanna gripe on this podcast, but sometimes I feel like your projects all involve me and my projects are solo.
What
So
projects do
I
you have?
sometimes I
Your
don't want to
projects
be
are
rolled
sleeping and
up into
watching
your
Formula
projects.
One.
No, you know me. I'm do a lot of stuff on the computer and I'm programming and doing stuff. And I'm never bothering you. I just need to be locked away in my ivory tower like I am all week and just have more time to myself alone as a hunchback over the computer. But
Yeah, we got
man,
to get you over
all
to the
your projects
chiropractor,
wrap
man.
me up. You got to roll me up and get me to go do things and buy things and hang things. The least favorite task I have in the whole world. Hanging things. Oh, the worst.
And for those of you that are wondering or want to know more about what Mike is talking about, definitely go to my Instagram. I have many funny videos of Mike and his various hanging stuff sagas of all the times that I have made him hang stuff, meaning mostly curtains, because we have a billion windows in our house. Although we have now hung curtains on every window. But now here's the problem
And some
is
of them
that
have
the
been hung
curtains that I
multiple
have
times.
chosen are so good. They're so heavy and like high quality that they very easily can rip the actual curtain rods off of the wall. So he's had to rehang the curtains in our room like 3 times.
Yeah, multiple times. So there's multiple holes that I've had to fill in those walls. She got the heaviest curtains. I mean, these things, you could hardly call them curtains. They're more like they're drapes. You know, it's a drape is heavy and they're blackout,
Yeah.
so
That's smart.
dark, and it's double curtain, not only one layer of curtains, it's two layers of curtains. And she got the cheapest racks with the cheapest anchors, but the heaviest, most expensive curtains, and they just don't go. And
Wait, wait,
one
wait, wait,
day,
wait. Are you giving me permission to buy more expensive curtain
no,
rods right
no,
now?
no, 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 no. No, 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 no. I'm not hanging anymore, so don't get any ideas.
What if they rip
Just
off
for
again?
everybody, hopefully, let me just change this subject as quick as I can. The funniest one of the videos that I enjoy on your Instagram is when I hung the curtains in the closet, which was the last one in the whole house. Saved the best one for last. And I put the brackets up and I'm going to hang the rod up, and you just see me go, er, and it's stuck and I can't get it over it. I'm like, oh no. That's my favorite one. That is definitely the best one.
That one was hilarious. It was because you did it so close to that we have an angled roof in that closet. And so he had it so that it was gonna be like perfect fit, but then it didn't fit. It was hysterical. And then he's
Oh,
just like,
that was the
"Ah,
worst.
curtains." So, yeah, I think that this is where we can get ourselves into trouble because expectations and the expectation that I have is that you're the husband and you're going to hang all of my curtains. And this can cause conflict and divide if we're not on the same page, i.e., you do not agree to hang my curtains. And what happens? Unmet expectations can lead to disappointment, frustration, anger, resentment, whatever it might be for
And
different people.
fighting and frustration.
And, here's the thing that's funny about this conversation with the like hanging things, because I'm sure a lot of wives and husbands are going to relate to this, that their husbands they either hate to do these kinds of things or they love to do them, but they don't like to be micromanaged. There's all kinds of a spectrum when it comes to this stuff. And it's funny to me because my dad was the same way as you. He never liked doing this type of stuff, hanging things, hanging ceiling fans, and he would do it, but he would be so mad the whole time that my mom stopped asking him to do these tasks. And whenever her father would come, my grandpa, who was like super handy and he loved working with his hands and doing this kind of stuff. So she would save all the projects. And then when he would come visit, she would give him a list and he liked to do that. So he'd keep himself busy. But then my dad got offended because he's like, "Oh, you don't need me. You're just going to give this work to." So it was funny because he secretly didn't want to do it, but then someone else doing it made him feel like, well, it should be me. So it was this torn feeling. And I have certainly threatened you with hiring people to do things. And I think that you've gotten a taste of it and you actually don't care. Like when we hired someone to put our daughter's play set together.
That was worth every penny.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy worked on that thing for like literally 14 hours. Literally 14 hours. That was money well spent, and I was glad not to be out there busting my butt and putting that thing together. So yes, it depends on what it is. Like
It depends on
hanging the
what it is.
TVs. Yeah, those guys that hung the TVs, like
Oh
I would
yeah.
not really have figured out the thing over the fireplace. Like I would have been if I listened to my dad, I would have had like a special drill bit to like drill through those bricks. Meanwhile, they just took the bricks off, put some wood up,
Meanwhile, they're
and like
faux
made it
bricks
work.
that are that like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
thick.
yeah. So like that, there's certain things that it's better to have a professional do.
Mhm.
But listen, baby, I'll do your spreadsheets all day long. You need data, you need reports. That's my cup of tea.
And this is,
So
again, we talked about understanding our spouse last week. And I mentioned that one of Mike's strengths is that he's analytical and he loves Excel. He loves spreadsheets so much. It's like a joy. If I were to call him or go upstairs or whatever, and I'm like, hey, I could really use your help with a spreadsheet, he would drop everything to help me.
yes, that's what I do.
So I have learned I not to have any expectations about physical labor projects, but if it's a spreadsheet, he will get it done.
That's what I do, baby. That's my expertise. That's my wheelhouse right there.
It is. It is. So let's circle this back to how do we squash expectations or at the very least improve on our reactions when it comes to expectations? And I think that our Reengage book really shared some great tips. So I'm going to share from that book. I hope that they forgive me for sharing their content. But the first is identify your expectations. So this is what we've been talking about, but make sure that your spouse knows what you expect of them and don't mind read or expect that they can mind read because they can't. Communicate beforehand. So this goes to the weekend project thing. If I know that we have a birthday party this weekend, which guess what? We have a birthday party this weekend, and that we need to, pack for a trip or we need to clean the garage or whatever it is, it's important that I communicate that with you beforehand. Just like you've made it very clear that Formula One is on this weekend, I also have to make it very clear, what else is going on. So communicate with your spouse, talk to them early in the week. And wives, listen, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to tell them like 25 times because every time is like the first time.
Yeah, you got that right. Oh, this whole time that you've been speaking, I'm so glad that you said this. I've been thinking about that meme where it's like wife tells husband there's something to do this weekend and it's a printer and it like prints off the printer and immediately the paper falls right into the shredder. Like that's exactly what happens every time. And
Yep.
then there's also, I mean, there's probably a ton of memes, but then there's another one that's along the same lines of like wife tells husband about plans every time, and then the husband's like, "What?" Like it's the first time they've heard it every time, and it's
That's
like, yeah,
you.
that's pretty much me.
That's totally you. Every time that I tell you, you're like, no, no, we don't. No, we can't.
When
Oh.
are we gonna tell me about this?
I was laughing because when we were just with Rachel, I noticed that she repeated to Chris multiple times. I don't remember what it was, but she kept telling him the same thing that was going to happen. And I was thinking to myself, why do you keep repeating yourself? But then now in this moment, I realized like she was doing the right thing. She was doing what we're saying to do.
It takes at least like 16 times before it even clicks that you're telling us something.
Yeah, definitely. And then the third one is believe the best. And I think that this goes back to our story about the chocolates, that in that moment, instead of me going, "Oh my gosh, he doesn't know me. If he knew me, he wouldn't have gotten me milk chocolates." Believe the best. He got me a gift because he was thinking about me and he thought ahead and purchased this gift. And thank God you got me a gift because some people don't even get each other gifts, or some husbands don't get their wives gifts at all on Valentine's Day. I'm very blessed and fortunate to have a husband that not only got me a gift, but thought about it and thought he was doing something really sweet. So believe the best in your spouse.
Yeah, and the biggest gesture was that I did it early.
That's true. You guys, you have no idea what growth this is for Mike to have gotten a gift early. So when I met him, he did not get people gifts. His mom got people gifts for him on his behalf. He never purchased a gift. And getting his parents a gift, he would get them the gift literally the day of the holiday at CVS because that was the only place that was left to go to that was open.
And
It's,
also sold a card.
and what?
And also sold a card.
And also what a card?
Sells cards, so it was where I could get a gift and the card at the same
Oh, you
place.
would go to a place that would sell a card and then you would just get something from there too, is really
Exactly,
how it went.
exactly.
And,
Yes.
where you were from and CVS was like the spot, which is hilarious to me to get a gift from the drugstore. But that was how Mike was when I first met him. And it used to really bother me that I started to get gifts for your parents. I would be like, what are we going to get for your parents? And then I would force you to go shopping or order something or whatever. And man, this year you ordered a gift for your dad's birthday all by yourself.
And it
And
got
you
there on
didn't even
time.
consult
It
with
got
me.
there earlier than his birthday.
Yeah, it's shocking. I don't
That
even
was
know who you are
huge.
anymore, man.
Huge step. I'm really, like, I'm a grown man, I'm 30. I have 2 children, I have a wife, and I have responsibilities that I'm gonna keep up with now, outside
Hey,
of work.
don't
I've always been on
overpromise,
top of my
man. Don't
work.
overpromise.
You're right, I gotta keep that bar low.
Keep the bar low just in case. But growth, it can happen. But we got to believe the best. And then the fourth tip is to communicate with God. Seek the Lord in all that you do, especially when it comes to expectations, and ask him to check you. Check your heart. Is this expectation from you? Is this something that is beneficial? Am I asking too much? Whatever it might be, have a chat with the Lord about it, especially before you react, if possible. Right?
Yeah, I think the last one is the biggest one. Lean on the Lord. The only one who's not gonna disappoint is God, and so that's who you can always count on no matter what, and who's gonna keep on giving and be totally generous and truly be able to fill you in a way that your spouse and no one else in the world ever could.
Yeah, definitely. And as we've been saying throughout this marriage series, this isn't, and what we're talking about today in particular is not about changing your spouse or their expectations or how they handle them. We cannot change our spouse. I can't change Mike and he can't change me, but I can change myself and he can change himself like he has with this gift thing. So it's important to get clear on what the source of our marriage expectations are, how we want to shift them moving forward. And then again, celebrating our spouse. I really loved that about understanding our spouse is the idea of celebrating. Think of some ways that your spouse has exceeded your expectations and express gratitude to them for it. Mike exceeds my expectations a lot. He did, especially with Valentine's Day this year. He really exceeded my expectations. I think it was last year you did something really cool too. I loved my flowers this year. And last year you did something really sweet, which was you asked them to give you a bucket of some specific types of flowers you knew that I liked because you know that I like to create and arrange flowers. And so I got to make a couple different bouquets with the vases that I have. And so that was something that was really sweet that I never would have expected you to do. I mean, you getting me flowers exceeds expectations because it's not something that you always think about or, you know, whatnot. But to continue bragging on you a little bit, I do want to say that an area that you have exceeded my expectations is with listening, that you are a wonderful listener. You actually hear me when I'm talking. You don't just My gosh, you remember when we were at the grocery store that time years ago and I was saying something to you and literally a woman stopped in the aisle and said to you, like, or to me, wow, he's really listening to you or something to that effect. Do you remember what she said?
Yeah, she basically complimented me on how intently I was listening to you and was telling you how lucky you were to have such a loving, attentive husband who truly listens to what you have to say and cares about what you have to say. So she was just trying to make sure that you knew how lucky and special it was that you have such a
It was a really funny moment
gracious
because
husband.
yeah, because you weren't just standing there going like, "Okay," you really were listening and communicating with me, but
Yeah,
I love
I do
that
listen
about
to you.
you, and I really appreciate that you've exceeded my expectations in that area, and that you're always willing to work on our marriage and to change and grow. We wouldn't be in reengage or have gone through reengage if you weren't willing to put work into our marriage. And I know that it can be a struggle for a lot of couples that either the wife or the husband is unwilling to put in additional work, or they think, well, everything is fine. So we don't need to continue to work on our marriage. But that's not how it works, right? I mean, we gave that car analogy, I think, in the first episode, where if you never serviced your car, it would fall apart. The same thing happens in our marriages if we don't put in the work. And I know that we often hear people say things like, people don't change, or people never change, or you can never change a person. And you can't change a person. Only an individual can choose to change themselves. But if we believe we can't change, that is stubbornness. If we believe that we can't. And there was a period of time where I used to say that I am who I am, but I can be a better version of who I am. And without growth, we stay stagnant. And that often leads to continued misery if we're living in misery, right? But Mike, he don't play that game. He's willing to admit when he's wrong and make a change. And I really admire that about you. And that exceeds my expectations because the expectation is that people are who they are and they don't change.
You know, we met a very wise pastor one day at Hibachi. We were at
Oh, yeah.
Hibachi
Remember that guy.
and he shared some wisdom with us that I really took to heart and I'd like to share with the listeners. He told me, Mike, it's so nice to meet you and your lovely wife. You guys are early in your marriage. And I want to teach you something that I've learned after 30 years of marriage. He said, you could be happy or you could be right, but you can't be both. And I really took that to heart and that I've been living that way ever since.
Yeah. That was a really great advice that he gave you.
You could be
And
happy or you could be right. You can't be both. So I'd rather be happy. And that's why I listen to you and whatever it is that you have to say, I'm listening closely. And all the things you need me to do and change, I'm happy to do it. And I'll do it with a smile because I want to
unless
be
it's
happy.
hanging curtains.
Unless it's hanging curtains, then you can forget it.
If it's something within our relationship, you will consider it. But if it's manual labor, it's not going to happen.
Yes, exactly.
But this goes back to understanding our spouse and their personality. And, I know these things about you at this point, and you're willing to admit where you're wrong, but you're also not willing to do construction.
It depends on what it is. And if you
Yeah.
beg me long enough, then I'll
Yeah.
turn around. And if you bribe me, maybe I'll do it faster.
It depends. You're right, though. It does depend on what it is.
It depends on what it is.
Yeah,
Spreadsheet I'll do immediately,
that's
anytime.
right.
Anytime, any place.
That's right. Well, I have a couple of Bible verses I wanted to share about expectations. And they come from Proverbs as well. I feel like last episode, our Bible verses came from Proverbs. It's a very
Proverbs are chock full of wisdom.
yes, there is a lot of wisdom there. So Proverbs 10:28, the hope of the righteous is gladness, but the expectation of the wicked perishes. The hope of the righteous is gladness, but the expectation of the wicked perishes. And then in Proverbs 13:12, it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. So those are some two interesting ones. And as we kind of close today, I really want to encourage listeners to consider your expectations, you listening, not your spouse, but your expectations, how you react, how you can shift your reaction. Are they realistic? Are they from the Lord? But also how to recognize your spouse in ways that they supersede and exceed your expectations too, and really appreciate them for that this week. So that's my final encouragement. Did you have anything you wanted to throw in?
Yeah, so I'll say you are absolutely wonderful wife and mother and exceed my wildest expectations every single day just by being you, just in your normal day to day. You're so
Oh,
fantastic. And I really love you and appreciate all the things that you do for me, for our family, for our home. And to go back to one of your older episodes, if expectations are the thief of joy, no one will ever steal my joy because I like to have low to no expectations. And I'm very, very happy and content and satisfied in that way. I like to just see where life takes us and how things go. And when you're on the right path, you normally end up in the right place and it really works out.
so Mike's tip is have no expectations and you'll never be disappointed.
You'll never be disappointed. Exactly. It's a secret to happiness.
Perfect. Well, next week is our last marriage episode, and we are going to be talking about growing in intimacy. So join us, tune in for that final episode. Thank you for tuning in and for being on this journey with us. If you would like to follow along outside the podcast, you can join the mission on Instagram or Facebook at The Radiant Mission, or you can watch in video format on YouTube. And today we're going to close with another verse from Proverbs 22, verse 3. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. We're wishing you a radiant week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Stay radiant, y'all.